So many storylines heading into Foxborough, but there can only be one lead story. And for the first time since episode 1, it's Eli Tomac. How silly to doubt him. Who would do that? Who would forget that he's a 50-something time Supercross winner, a 6-time 450 champ? Of course he was going to get one this year, morons. So yeah, I didn't think he was going to get one this year. I watched day 1, close and in person, practice, heat, main, it was rough. And I left there thinking it was okay. I was fine with it. He had earned my respect through a lifetime of battles and victories, and I was grateful just to be there for some of the big ones. Like his first ever win at Hangtown at 17 years old. First AMA professional race. Smashed them, put on a clinic, and showed us all what was coming. Beast mode. I watched him at the 2017 Salt Lake City Supercross, chase down Ryan Dungey, and grab one of the most obnoxiously dominant wins I've ever seen. Easy race for me to remember. It was my first Supercross broadcast as a pit reporter, a one-race tryout. I've seen a dozen incredible races from Eli over the years, which brings us to this one, 52, the one that looked like it might not happen, honestly. He has proven time and time again this season that if it's not there that night, it's not there, and he wasn't going to risk it. That is 100% the approach any sane person would take. If they had already won everything there is to win, had more money than most people would know what to do with, and had a growing family that is a huge priority to them. Those off nights make sense to me. It felt like we were all slowly coming around to the idea that those winning days might be over, and we needed to just recognize his greatness, regardless of if the ride that night was mediocre or close to the old Eli. That's where I was. He was not. I bet those flights home were frustrating, infuriating even. Knowing you can still do it, knowing you had this thing in the bag last year, now this, a couple 9s and a 10 on the board, beyond confusing for a winner brain. He heard the chatter, media mouthing, refused to believe it, brought the heat to St. Louis and stuck a 1-1-1 on the board. Boss. Of course, he had a little help. Jet's night was assisted in the outcome for sure. Word is Vince was paid to discreetly sabotage Jet. Vince did his thing. Donuts lost points in race 2 for simply jumping the finish line with a waving checkered flag in his face. Then Vince used evil voodoo magic to scare the daylights out of Bam Bam of all people, and Jet got missiled. Jokes aside, the sport is gnarly right now with so many talented dudes on the gate, and a win is a win is a win. Take it. Bank of Cortez won't give an F if that bonus check clears. And even better, the next 5 races set up perfect for a couple more wins, and I think I'm back on board. I know. So where do we go from here? Or better yet, where does Eli go? I see 3 distinct options, and I think I know which one we all want. Not option 1, I'm guessing, which is to walk away after Salt Lake City. You've done it all. You've won it all. You just came back from the weirdest injury ever, proved you could still win again in St. Louis, which you said on the Pulp Show was a goal. Mad respect, my man. Thanks for the memories. You're a legend. That's one option, and it wouldn't surprise me. It makes sense. But I'm hearing that it's less and less likely. So maybe it's option 2. Pick and choose what races you want to do. A couple MX here, a couple MX there. Maybe throw in some SMX, throw in Barcia and Ozx Open and make more cash, bro. A more relaxing schedule that allows you to race what you want. He's earned that. With that resume and fan base, he could ride his own ticket, and I bet every manufacturer would jump at it. But that's not a very good one either. Last option, everyone's first choice. Sign your 2025 Supercross contract right now, damn it. Let's go. Take a breather this summer. Race SMX for fun. Then lock it down in October with no injury to recover from this offseason and take back the title you had stolen in 2023. Other than the 450 class, who wouldn't want that? Make this hard on Jet. We all know he's going to have a decade to play around and rack numbers. Dent that timeline, bro. Do what you did last season in Arlington. Announce you're not done, get to 60 wins and a 3rd Supercross title next year, and walk out as boss daddy. 2024 wasn't fair, and we know it. I said in episode 1, Eli drew a bad hand, but he grinded away, suffered for months, forced his will, and got a win. It ain't over if he doesn't want it to be. If it was me, I'd walk away, but I'm not a champion. I'm a has-been with low T and mild to extreme arthritis in my hips. But if I was 31 with the support of my family, team, and sponsors, a healthy body, and a way better offseason to prepare. A way better hand, you might say? I might take that bait. Here's to the Eli Tomac 2025 Supercross campaign. Let's go, legend. This sport is rad because of you. You are why the sport is so stacked from top to bottom. But that math is about to rear its ugly head. It happens. There's changeover. 2 years from now, the sport will look completely different.
It has begun.
Hunter Lawrence now has a podium and a heat race win. Justin Cooper is proving every week that he's one of the boys. Crazy speed. Throw Jet in there and it's clear that the rookie class is stepping up and the inevitable changeover is happening little by little. So what happens when the shift goes down and Barcia, Anderson, Stewart, and Tomac all move on in the next 2 years? Maybe Roxon, Ferrandis, and Webb shortly after? Well, 250 guys like Levi Kitchen, Hayden Deegan, and yes, Austin Faulkner eventually move up. And in comes the next generation of 250 stars, also known as the Futures class. This past Saturday night in St. Louis, a new crop battled it out on a brutal track and gave us a glimpse of what the next wave may look like. And let me tell you right now, they're good. Really good. Starting with the winner, Drew Adams, an amateur phenom who has always raced up an age class due to his size and ability. He's a Team Green forever kid who should be walking into Mitch's PC truck soon. Some feel he's underachieved the past few years, maybe due to the hype. But the reality is he was so young on a 250, he just needed a minute. And now at the ripe age of 16, it's all coming together. Casey Cochran had to check a few boxes and grab his pro points, and he's set to move on and up soon. Gavin Towers, Mark Finnis, and Parker Ross are Futures vets who will be turning pro later than most. Towers podiumed the Salt Lake City Futures Final in 2022. Finnis and Ross both did it in 2023. But don't forget what I said last week. Starting your pro career a little later isn't always a bad thing. It can be great. Also on the gate are a couple international kids in New Zealand's Cole Davies and Canada's Ryder McNabb. You've all seen Davies by now, future stud who has shown that he's the next star Kiwi. Developed by Ben Townley and Josh Coppins, now coached and trained by former 250 Supercross champ Will Hahn. McNabb is a two-time Canadian motocross champ who was hurt in January. Just got back on the bike, but is a sneaky good Supercross rider. He's training with former Supercross champ Davey Millsaps, who tightened up the bolts on Juju Beaumare last year, and you saw how that turned out. A couple of longtime amateur champs and the most dominating B riders from Minios this past year, Luke Fowler and Landon Gordon are both on the gate this future season. Fowler skipped Anaheim with an injury, finished 7th at Daytona at his first Supercross, jumped into the back of Gavin Towers' slipping bike in St. Louis, and will be a nightmare for everyone next year. Timestamp this. Gordon will be a menace too. He skipped these last 2 races with an injury of his own, but after a 7th at A2, he's already proven he'll be a favorite to win these next year too. You also have Revin Gordon, Landon's older brother, who has never really had the best amateur results, but seems to love him some Supercross and is the only thing on track bringing honor to the number 125. Thanks, Revin. He led laps in St. Louis and eventually finished 4th. Landon Gibson led laps in St. Louis after turning 15 2 weeks ago. He's the youngest to ever race Supercross Futures, finished 2nd to Drew Adams after racing Super Minis 9 months ago. Add Clark Robbins, Trevin Nelson, Alvin Hillen, and Landon Peppard, and you have the names you need to know over the next few seasons as these kids inject themselves into 250 Pro Supercross racing. So many rad stories and intriguing backgrounds, and an opportunity of a lifetime to race Supercross on the television. Now, maybe I'm a little too close to it for many reasons, but the coverage of the Futures main event in St. Louis was a total bummer if I'm being honest. Watch it back if you'd like. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It was clear that nobody did their homework or had any information in front of them outside of maybe the sign-up sheet, and that's too bad. You know, these kids dream their whole life to be on TV. They rushed to their hotel after the race to watch Peacock back, wanting to know if they got on screen and what was said about them if they did. Their friends and family watch, other amateur racers around the country and world watch. It's a big deal. And that, unfortunately, was an empty and hollow 10 minutes of coverage that has to be better. And hopefully is next week in Foxborough. This week's privateer shout out goes to Jeremy Hand. He finished 3rd in the LCQ and put a bunch of stud privateers in the stands and out of the Triple Crown. Not physically into the stands, you know what I mean. A little background on the dude. He crushed it last summer, a regular in the top 20 in the 450 Nationals, topped off by a 12th at Unadilla. He's made some 450 Supercross mains in the past, way more 250 mains, but he rolls up into St. Louis and onto an LCQ gate with Ty Masterpole, Derek Drake, and Kevin Moran's on it, and gets in no problem. Even survived Vince. I know what it's like to be a privateer. You do a lot of work, spend a lot of money, all in the hope of putting that bike in the main. It fires up the fam, fires up your sponsors and your buddies that cheer you on. And it's rad when you go back to your home track and the locals show their respect for what you're doing. And it is really gnarly right now in that 450 class. So congrats, Jeremy, and good luck in Foxborough. See you next week. Thank you so much for watching the show. If you liked it, press the like button. And if you want to subscribe, then press the subscribe button. Share it with your friends, with your family, and grandma. Make sure you send it to grandma. Grandmas love everything Main Event Moto does. All you Motoheads out there, we are still rocking and rolling at Main Event Moto. You can go to patreon.com/maineventmoto. We do 2 shows a week now, and both of them are live streamed. Patreon.com/maineventmoto, and we will catch you on the next show.